Welcome back to Dribbling Around, episode number 25, the big 25th anniversary. I've heard that being tossed around sometimes. You get to that number, it's very specific. But anyway, we're going to go through a couple things this episode. First, we're going to be talking about the start of NBA free agency. That's going to be a little bit after the draft. And speaking of the draft, we have big news as well coming with that. We're going to talk about our 20 to 11 on our top 30 list. We went and did 30 to 21 in our honorable mentions last week. If you missed that, go check it out. Definitely some crazy stuff there. And on a personal note, I want to talk about some NBA 2K21 next gen stuff, PS5. I know I play a lot. I love to use a big man build, and that's definitely coming soon. I think the Thursday, the 12th of November, that is the release date for that. But definitely I'm going to talk about more of that. But first, we're going to start off talking about NBA free agency. Going to be starting a couple days after the NBA draft. And Dan, I'm going to come to you first here. How do you think this timetable being so short compared to a lot of other years, how do you think this is going to affect free agency going forward?
Well, it's going to be difficult for a lot of these NBA free agencies and there's free agents, and there's not a lot of big names on the market this year, but they announced the NBA PAs approving the start date of next season on December 22nd. So, and training camps are supposed to start December 1st. So really you're giving players a little less, maybe 2 weeks to kind of sign before training camp even starts. So I think you're going to see a lot of teams that start training camp that don't have their rosters filled out yet, and players are looking for a home. And they're not some of these players, I'm not going to guess who one of them are going to be. They're going to be decent players that can play on an NBA roster. Yeah. They could be role players that could help a championship team. So it's going to be difficult. And I think with the start date, I think LeBron James has said it. He said he's going to cherry pick the first half of the season because they're starting.
I don't blame him.
Yeah. And he might not even start the beginning of the season. So you're going to, because it's so early. And excuse me, you take into effect what the Lakers did and how late they played into October, and they get a little less than 2 months of break. Well, what about a guy like Trae Young and the Hawks? When did they stop? They've had forever to rest. So it's a tough balance. It really is.
But I also have to argue that, but for the longevity of the league, you sort of need to start this early, not because there's a lot of money involved.
Mm-hmm. You lose a ton.
It's like literally, I think the number saying is somewhere between $600 million to $1 billion that you're losing, and that's going to come off of not from us, but come off the players' paychecks. That's going to hurt. So I'm thinking we're going to see a lot of 1-year deals because you're asking, hey, you have 2 weeks to decide the next 5 years of your life if you're going to sign a long-term deal. I think we're going to see a lot of 1-year deals, a lot of players staying with their teams with the teams that they were off contract with in the previous year, just because they know there's a lot of certainty there. They know where they're going to live. They know how the team is like, at least to stay there for 1 more year. And, what's the harm in that? And then they move forward. The issue also comes for a lot of players that are expecting the big money this year because it might not be there, Connor.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think going into this, we saw that there were really no big ticket free agents that were likely switching teams. So we were thinking some guys were going to get overpaid. Now that there's really only a 2-week window between free agency starting and the training camps, I think the teams get more power in this situation just because, hey, you need to sign a deal before training camp starts, or you don't want to sign too late into that. So we're here, and they might just lowball some players. And Jaden, I think you're going to see players take some two-year deals and probably stay with their teams just because they don't want to get caught up in this monster free agency season coming next off season. So I think we're not going to see as many mega deals, as many blockbusters.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm trying. That's what I mean. Mm-hmm. That's what
Brandon Ingram will probably get paid, but guys like DeMar DeRozan, they're probably not gonna see their big extensions coming up, big paydays, unless they maybe take a bridge deal and hope that their play doesn't fall off a cliff.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and the teams have more power. You just said that, Connor. Who does that help? And of course, I'm thinking personally, helps the Lakers. Not only you said players are gonna, they might re-sign with their own team, but with a GM like Rob Pelinka and even the Clippers, we just talked to Noah Eagle about that. Something like that. I'm not saying they're going to get back Montrez or Marcus Morris or anything like that, but there's going to be potential steals, I think, out there of role players that are a little bit better than their contract that they get. These contending teams are going to get some nice players for some really good value.
Here's another question. You're allowed to backload deals in the NBA, right? Like, meaning you pay somebody $7 million the first 2 years, and then you bump it up to 10, and then 13 in the fourth, fifth year, right? That's allowed. I'm
I
pretty
think
sure.
it can just
believe
grow.
so.
Like, it
Yeah.
depends if a player is re-signing with the team, is like what they did last season with that team or wherever. But it just depends because
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure because listen, the reason why I think I know this is because this is going to be so weird. So I watched a YouTube video that Cameron Magruder guy in free agency, like freaking out, and like Chris Middleton re-signed a deal, and the Bucks fans like, is the deal backloaded? Like something like that.
yeah.
So
Because that could
I'd
also
assume
work
so.
too, because money for the next 2-3 years is going to be a question, just because of COVID. We just don't know, especially if the start date, or right now they're saying, and I think it's almost set in stone that it's going to be right before
It's going to be
Christmas, right?
December 22nd.
So I'm saying it's 22nd.
Oh, we have Christmas Day basketball.
That's a good gift. That's a
The
good gift.
positive. And even if we don't see LeBron or anything
Yeah.
like that.
And even though like we've seen those stars kind of say like, yeah, I'm not going to play every game at the beginning. I think the NBA knew that even when they proposed the deal, but they just know like, hey, we have to get back to our normal cycle of like, so that way we can get back to starting in October, ending in June. Like, and obviously that wasn't going to be done with just one dramatic shift of the season. This is probably going to be something that happens over the course of maybe the next 3-5 seasons, something like that. So I think we're going to see all, or not really all, because the only other professional sport that has to change its schedule is hockey. But I think we're going to just see that across those two sports where short breaks for the champs, but you got to get those teams that weren't doing so hot, like the teams that didn't get into the bubble, you got to get them back in action sooner rather than later.
And that's why I'm so excited as well for the next NBA season, because the amount of parity is infinite. You feel like anybody in the West could sort of go for it. There'll be a ton of surprises. The East, obviously, as well. Ton of surprises there as well. And with players in the front end of the season not really playing like the star players that you would usually see, you see that more come towards the back end of the season, right? And I think it'll sort of even out, because like load management, the day and age that we live in, it's all gonna even out. But it's I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I don't know if we're just saying that as basketball fans, just to have the season come back, and it hasn't been gone for long, but I couldn't be more excited.
Quickly before we move on, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer right here, but you don't really have a bubble anymore, and I don't think they're gonna have fans. So you have to be aware there could be some. I don't think the season's going to get canceled, because I think Adam Silver is going to devise some beautiful plan to try to mitigate.
Maybe we could recognize divisions again in basketball.
Yes, to mitigate the widespread virus of COVID-19 that is COVID-19. But I think there will be some issues that become problematic sort of mid-season with some teams, and you are going to see some rescheduling. I get like the NFL, I get there's more personnel in the National Football League, but you're going to have to keep an eye on that. I think we're going to have to deal with those issues. When fans are going to come back, I don't know. And I think we've kind of beat the drum a little too much here on this, because we don't know that much information right now, and we will in the future. But we got to get to the list. 20 through 11. We're ready to go. I don't know. We're starting at 20. So the shocks, just to go over the shocks that we didn't have. I didn't have Bam. Jaden didn't have Jamal Murray. And Connor didn't have Paul George. And if you watch the show, that's not that much of a surprise.
I don't know how you were like, you're definitely saying Paul George today. And I don't understand how you can watch last season and then say, yeah, he's better than those guys you mentioned.
Tell that to Noah.
I should have.
Jeez.
All right.
I should have. Hey, I told him.
Should I start?
Yes, you started. You started the list last time.
Number 20. Another scoring guard. Really hasn't had too many good playoff moments in his career necessarily. Bradley Beal, the Washington Wizards. Really good score overall. He, again, one of the only reasons why the Wizards even won some games this year. And he's another piece that could go to a championship team and elevate them to the next level. He's that good of a scoring guard. And we don't know what he's going to be when John Wall comes back. John Wall's been out for a significant amount of time. And if you remember, those two healthy, they're dynamite. Yes, they need a third piece. They're not a championship contender just with those two. But Bradley Beal is another guy that can go out and give you 40 any given night. He's one of the tougher guards in basketball. His defense, it's okay, but that's not what his game is about. His game is about scoring. And really, as a number 3 pick in the NBA draft a long time ago, I guess you could say he's lived up to the hype. Right? He just hasn't been surrounded with the right pieces. He's not one of those God-given, like, lift you to a championship guy. He needs a couple more guys, but if he's with a couple more dudes, he could win a championship. I don't know. I've played around with his name going to Brooklyn. I played around with his name going to Philly. I don't know. It would take a haul, especially for Washington. Not really sure where that franchise is going with their direction. But I have him at 20.
Very
You know
fair
where I'd love
spot.
to see him go? You know where I'd love to see him go?
Where?
Denver.
I knew you were going to say that, but for what? If I'm Washington,
MPJ picks, something like that.
I like MPJ.
but does he? The thing is, I'm not sure if that would be an interesting fit. I'm not sure if because Jamal's not a big passing point guard. We saw Jamal really needs to have the ball in his hands, and so does Bradley. So he's an okay off-ball mover. He's a little bit of a better shooter than Murray, but that would be like,
You don't need a point
it's
guard
not
when
like-
you got a point center, though.
that's true, but it's like a Dame. I wouldn't compare it to Dame and CJ. It's a little bit more. I don't know. That'd be very interesting for me. But if I'm Denver, I'm keeping MPJ. If MPJ stays healthy, I think he could be a multi-time All-Star. That's another debate. But you guys, who's number 20 for you two?
Number 20 for me, and I wanted to make sure he was in the top 20, and that's why I struggled also with Kyle Lowry. Sorry, people yelling in the background. This is the Zoom world we live in, right? I have Klay Thompson at number 20. I have him right there. I think that's a very prime spot for him because he could definitely fall out of the top 20, but I think he's earned it throughout his whole career to stay in the top 20. I don't have any stats for him last year because obviously didn't play last year, and he's coming off an injury, so that's why I don't want to put him any higher. I don't really want to put him any lower either because I feel like that would be disrespectful given that he is a part of one of the greatest shooting backcourts, not one of the greatest shooting backcourts in the history of basketball. So if that 3-point ball stays and he keeps on going with Curry, there's no reason why he shouldn't be. He can definitely be higher, Klay Thompson, but a perfect spot for him, I think, is 20.
Excited to see what he does next year. And again, he's one of those guys, and as good as an off-ball mover as he is, and I feel like a lot of his athleticism was underestimated because he's that prolific of a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, Klay has the ability to stay in the league for so long because of his shot. Yeah. He's literally a top 5 shooter of all time, let alone probably top 3. And I'm one of those believers. His shot is prettier than Curry's.
Yes, I think it is
prettier than Curry's.
Yeah,
the better form. But Klay, another solid player that you're excited to see come back. Number 20 for you, Connor.
Yeah, I'll keep the trend going with scoring guards. I have Jamal Murray at 20, and these next 3 or so coming up, it's a very tight group where you can't see a huge difference between everyone. So it's just more so a matter of feel. But Jamal Murray, I think, arguably had the best playoff run out of like this entire bubble, even better than LeBron's and even better than Jimmy Butler's. I think it was Jamal Murray's. And you just see all these historical stats. Like he was going blow to blow with Donovan Mitchell. He leads the 3-1 comeback against the Clippers. This guy, we were kind of waiting for that breakout. And I feel like some people were starting to kind of give up on that. And it's like, okay, he's a good to great NBA player, but that's it. This guy's a great NBA player, and he might be growing still. We're still going to get flashes of even better than what we saw in the playoffs coming up.
Mm-hmm. And I had him at 21, and Connor, we had him around the same place. I thought you were going to put him a lot higher. I was going to say, hold on. Like, we saw the bubble, and you mentioned it, how amazing he was. Jaden, don't even comment on this conversation.
I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I gave him the honorable mention. I think he was just very volatile because we didn't see him play like this in the regular season.
Yeah, but if you play that well at that high of a level.
I know, but I think it's a volatile at the moment. I'm not discrediting what he did in the playoffs because he played at such a high level, but I do think that I want to see more of it. I do want to see more of it, and I have no problem putting him up there. And I feel like if I made the list another day, maybe I do. But I think it's a little too volatile for me. Just I like being patient.
Okay, and that's a fair argument. 19 for me. I think a couple of you already mentioned him. One of you, Karl Anthony Towns. Of the Minnesota Timberwolves at 19. Listen, he's already a 2-time All-Star. Minnesota, the West is so good that you're thinking that Minnesota is going to be one of the worst teams in the West, and they possibly could be. Think about this. They have D'Angelo Russell, who's been an All-Star, Karl Anthony Towns, 2-time All-Star, and potentially, well, not potentially, they have the number 1 pick, and who knows if that's going to be, whether it's LaMelo or Anthony Edwards. But look at Cat's numbers the past 2 years. I get he was hurt some of the year, but first 3 years, talk about durability, played all 82 games. He's averaged over 24 points a game 3 times. He's averaged a double-double every year he's been in the league. And the last 3 years, he shot over 40% from the three-point line and is over a 75% free throw shooter. This guy just scores and gets buckets. Would I like to see him be a little bit more of a rim protector a little bit? He still averages around 1.5 blocks. So he's one of those correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like if Karl Anthony Towns was in the game 10 years ago, he would put up the same numbers, but he would be like one of those guys that would be like a top 6'5" player. I feel like just because the league was so much different. The league is just
his rebounding game is great, and he's able to score in the paint very well. He's able to score at such a high rate. And he is able to shoot the 3-ball surprisingly, but I feel like he hasn't been the guy I feel like to will the team to victory like how other players have been able to.
I don't know if he do that in today's game though.
Yeah. That's
Jokic,
well.
but he needed Jamal. He's
Jamal.
24, and I don't know if D'Lo is the guy.
And the Timberwolves are still. It's like he's not really even having an impact on that team. Obviously, he's doing a great job and he's the main force of it. But it's not like it's helping him
the season.
Yes,
this is the only year he missed some time this year. Other than that, he's been pretty durable. Yeah. But I'm gonna say it, and we got to move on from Cat. If the T-Wolves do not have another good year, he signed that Supermax, I think, a couple of years ago. Don't be surprised if he'll ask to 1 out, I think, after this year if they don't do well. That's all I got. 19 for you, Jaden.
Oh, man, I don't know if this is high or low or just outrageous, but I'm going Chris Paul at 19. And I think that's a solid pick only because without him on that Thunder team, the Thunder are nothing. I think you're able to agree with that, Connor.
Yeah,
without him on that Thunder team, I wouldn't call it.
It was a team,
maybe not nothing.
Chris Paul was the alpha.
He was the alpha and the leader of that team, able to take a bunch of young guys and able to prove that hey, they're able to be a playoff team when no one expected them to be. His numbers aren't perfect, especially if you look how I've been doing my chart. He's not on top 5 of any of the rankings I have. But without him on that team, that's why I sort of look at too how much effect do you have on your team, and the Thunder wouldn't be anywhere close to where they should be. And you could say that about a bunch of other teams he's been on in the past with the Rockets and the Clippers and all stuff. Without him, it's a completely different story. So, I have him at 19.
Yeah, I have him coming up, but not just yet. At 19, I have Jason Tatum, which if you watch any game with him, you'll be reminded at least 21 times.
That's a little low.
21.
That's a little low.
It's a little low. Oh, so sorry that Jamal Murray is at 30.
That's a little low. But Tatum. Go ahead.
Tatum's still day 2. We're still calling him week 2. At least he's week 2 in my list.
Okay, Connor, hold on. He's 19 for you, but I feel like he's the kind of guy that could make your biggest jump in the list by next year.
100. Well, yeah, I had this group kind of where I have my 20 through 18. I feel like those guys could skyrocket to probably 11 through 13. And even though I said skyrocket and only mentioned a 5 to 10 spot jump, is that top 10 is clearly no one's touching that unless they really play really at an MVP level that entire season. But no, back to Tatum. We've seen his inefficiency kind of lose the Celtics games, and I'm not going to harp on that because more often than not, he's the one winning them for them. He's their lead guy, even with Kemba. He's the one, he's their go-to getter. And I think there was a game against the Heat where he wasn't doing anything in the first half, 0 points or something. Then next thing you know, he's their leading scorer probably by the end of the third. So that just shows you how quick he is. And he's still developing. So I'm not really putting too much stock into the potential and what I think he can grow into, because he had a good season after, I think, a down one in his second year in the league. But yeah, Tatum right in front of Murray. And then I have a guy 18 who kind of completes that trio of guys who have potential. But I just want to see a little bit more about him before I throw him too far up there.
Yeah, really a prolific scorer, kind of even his high school career at Duke. 18 now for me, Ben Simmons. And I get he's been hurt. I really like him. As much as we hate on the Sixers, a lot of people, how many guys do you see 6'9" at the point guard position? I understand his shooting deficiencies, and they might continue throughout his career, and that's going to suck. How many guys do you see facilitate like him at his size, drive to the rim, and be an all defensive player that can lock up 1 through 5? You don't get that much. And the reason why Philly was so good at home, the reason why Philly with Ben Simmons was arguably a top 5 team in the East with Ben Simmons, was not necessarily because of their offense. It was because of their defense. They didn't shoot well. Josh Richardson's not that great of a shooter. Embiid's inside game. So it was Ben Simmons' playmaking ability. He's one of the best players in the game in transition. I'm telling you, if this guy learns to shoot, he's a top 10 player in the league if he gets a decent 3-point shot. But
we've been saying that since his LSU days.
Yeah, we've been saying that for a long time.
Exactly.
I
think the ship has sailed.
Yeah, I look at him.
Maybe
the word winner doesn't
he's
pop
20
up for
something.
me.
The shooting ship has sailed.
Yeah, that's all gone.
We got to keep
could have
going.
figured that out. Yes.
I don't like talking about the Sixers.
I know. None of us do. But one team that we do like talking about is the Suns. And I got Devin Booker at number 18.
It's a little low for me.
Little low. I think that's a prime spot for him because once again, in the same book as Chris Paul, without him, that team is almost nothing. Obviously, once again, a great team effort. 8-0 in the bubble, didn't make the playoffs, but there's not one person on this planet, unless you were a team that was what was it? The Grizzlies that were trying to fight for a playoff spot. I forgot who it was trying to get the 8. Oh, it was the Blazers trying to get that 8 spot in the playoffs. There's no other person in the world that's rooting against that Suns team in the bubble because they were just that prolific, and he was really the face of that. He really was the face of that. Average 26 points per game, 6 assists per game, able to shoot the ball at an efficient rate, even from the 3-point, 35%. Guy was a superstar, and he has, we talk about flashes about some players. I think he has the biggest flash when he does flash. His bulb is the brightest. So when it does flash, but we don't see it flash too often. We saw a flash in the bubble, but we don't see it flash as much as we would like. We would like to see a constant glow from Devin Booker in the future. That would be nice.
When I talk about him later, I'll make my argument. But Connor, 18.
Devin Booker at 18. And if the
Nice.
Suns
You're
don't
good.
go 8-0,
No.
he's probably like about 20 to 25. Is this the first time like one of us has had like
I think so.
No,
I
Connor,
think so.
no, Connor, we've agreed.
We had
I think I've come before you. I've said it right
think
before
it's like
you.
we've been one off a couple times last week. I think this might be the first time where one of us has like an actual like exact.
As we get
same
further
player.
down the list, we're gonna get a lot more. I assume.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, Booker, if he doesn't go 8-0 with the Suns, he's probably around that 21-22 bubble. But no, I put him over Murray, Tatum, Mitchell, and Clay just because like he really led that team, and it's like you saw them really embrace team play as like rallied around new head coach. But no, Booker, I have a lot more optimism for the Suns going into next season. And the reason is because Devin Booker played like an absolute stud in the bubble. And even though we only saw him for 8 games, that was enough to elevate his stock for me to mention him now instead of just between 30 and 21.
His light is very bright when it's on. But when it's not on, then the team isn't really doing much for the Suns.
When is
but
it not on?
Throughout most of the regular season, it wasn't really on. But when he reached that bubble, it couldn't shine brighter. When he dropped how many points did he drop once? Was it 81 or 88, something like that?
70.
I'm thinking of the wrong person.
Slow down here.
Bro, but still a high number. But that light is bright, but it needs to be on. It needs to be on a little bit more. But again,
we got about 12 minutes left, so we gotta move pretty quick.
Spent too much
time
on Simmons.
Time limits, baby. All right, 17.
No,
17. Sorry, 17. I'm not going to talk about him because kind of you're just going to get pissed. Paul George, still a 3-and-D guy, not necessarily a 3-and-D guy. He's an all-around guy. He can shoot the 3, he can drive to the rim. He's still a good defender. Bad playoffs, I get it. But 2 years ago with OKC, this guy was 3rd in the MVP voting. I think he's going to have a really good season next year. He's still on a very talented team. He's tough to guard. He's very silky smooth. We're moving on. I'm not going to get into this
Dane,
argument.
I have a question. Is Isaiah Thomas on your list? Because you keep mentioning guys who were in 3rd place in MVP voting years ago, even though
guess what? Okay, listen. In 2019, he was. So,
okay, what about? Yeah, I mean, we're just referencing.
What are we talking about? We want to talk about
Howard too.
We want to talk about
Derrick Rose. Is he on your list?
Okay,
is he coming up?
Slow down. We're talking about Isaiah Thomas. What in 2016? Derrick Rose in 2011? No, it's not like Paul George. He was out for some of the season, but it's not like Paul George. Even Noah mentioned it. Paul George was one of those guys that maybe was going through some mental things in the bubble, and I get excuses, of course. But when Paul George, he still had moments on the floor where it's not like all of a sudden D Rose when he got hurt, like you knew like it was the downfall.
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas, when he got hurt, you knew it was the downfall. Dwight Howard, the game just started to go away from his game. 3-point shooting, he was more of a post-up guy. Game isn't going away
I
from
wasn't
Paul
really
George.
comparing them. I was just like, you keep mentioning like 2 years ago. Like we're talking
Oh,
about
take
last
away
year
that
going
point.
into this year.
Take away that point. PG is still a top 20 player.
No one's denying his talent. He just can't play at a top, or he didn't play at a top 30 rate last year.
So what I did
not last year, but I still think he has that in him.
But we're out of time. What I did when we talked about Paul George, I put him at 27, and I put him, I think, at the bottom of his range because of recent events. And I felt like maybe I could have done the same with this guy, who is my 17, but I think I put him at the top of his range, and that's Pascal Siakam. I put him at the top of what I think he could be.
Raptors, dog.
I put him at 17 because that's the way I think he could be. He could be a top 20 player in this league, and
another guy that had
definitely
a bad playoff.
Exactly, but the difference is that Pascal Siakam is younger in this league and has a lot more room for potential. Meanwhile, Paul George is on the back end of his prime. That's why I put him more towards the bottom. Pascal Siakam, 22 points per game, and rebounding the ball pretty well with 7 rebounds per game as well. Obviously, you'd like to see more from him in the playoffs, making some mid-range shots that you should do at the NBA level. But this is the top of his range, and it could be higher if the Tampa. Wow, if that's literally opposite. If Toronto, it could play a more inefficient rate.
17.
Next at 17, I have CP3. I think he was like kind of getting some MVP votes late in the season, but we've already talked about him, how he was just like that leader. And though he had like a disappointing kind of fizzle out with that OKC team at their elimination of the bubble, he was hands down their best player and the main reason why they were able to defy the odds and become the 5 seed or whatever, 4 or 5 seed in the playoffs.
Okay. 18 or 17?
Other
16?
way.
16.
16.
Jeez.
1 for 3.
You're off today. 16.
Where am I going?
Oh,
Mitchell.
It's Mitchell. There we go. You got the reference.
Yeah, I got it.
It might be a little low. I think he's around this range for you guys too. Another one of those. Listen, his athleticism is through the roof. The way a lot of people forget in that first round series, even though the Jazz choked, Donovan Mitchell, what he'd have like 3 50-point games in that series.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Jazz, a lot of people forget Mike Conley was a shot away from beating the Nuggets. Yeah. Like the Jazz without Bogdanovich, Mitchell, and I get they lost. They were up 3-1. Like they're with Gobert. Gobert outplayed Jokic early in that series. He did. So
surprisingly.
Yes, and Mitchell was that key factor. And earlier in the playoffs, like we hadn't seen Donovan Mitchell be Donovan Mitchell in his first couple of years. He wasn't that guy. And a lot of people had some questions whether he could shoot the 3. Not only is his 3-point game developing, you'd see him late game in isolation. It was Murray, then it was Mitchell. It was Murray, then it was Mitchell. No one could guard them. Like the step backs, and then when he gets in the lane, you see how explosive he is.
But once again, I talked about him last week. I had him at 24. The volatility is still there. If I would love to see these guys are the point guards of the league in the future. These guys are, but just not yet. Just not yet. Give him more time. Just not yet.
Who do you have at this spot?
16 Bradley Beal. Okay.
Okay.
And we already talked about him, average 30 points per game. There's no reason why he shouldn't be lower than this. I think this guy is such an efficient scorer that he was a monster, and not a guy that was going inside and he was shooting that ball very, very well. So Bradley Beal at 16.
Jaden, I'm going to increase this player's top of the range by 1 spot that you just mentioned, Pascal Siakam. I think he left a really bad taste in everyone's mouth.
He was on your stink list.
He was, but I'm still good. Hey, Dane, you know what? Do you know the difference between Siakam and George? Siakam actually played at minimum, good basketball in the regular season. And he wasn't sitting half the season either. He was actually playing and leading that Raptors
I'll
team,
bet that Paul George gets more MVP votes than. No, actually, no, I'm not going to say that.
But the thing is, too, is Siakam has more time. Paul George is on the back end of his prime. We're just starting to talk about Siakam. So that's what we're saying. His potential is there. Back end. He's on the back. Now I'll say it's over, but it's the back end.
I think Siakam's still on the uprise. And I think we're going to see more Siakam next season because we're probably not going to see that Raptors team bring back Ibaka and or Van Vliet. So that's just going to be more ball time.
One of the two.
Yeah. It's going to be more Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry type of ball. And I think he's going to step into that role and he's going to lead the Raptors. They're still going to be a top 4 team in the East.
All right.
Who do you have?
Especially if they lost Van Vliet. I don't know about that, but we'll see. I'm not going to doubt Nick Nurse. 15. Joel Embiid, best arguably when he's healthy. And I get where with health, no one can guard that man in the post. I'm sorry. I don't care who you bring up. And I get like Draymond Green said it. Anytime he shoots a three, he's bailing the other team out. And that's something as a big man you kind of got to do.
What I will say about that is that I don't know. I know it's a stretch. But when players are playing the absolute hardest, fourth quarter of that All-Star game, they gave that ball to him. I know it's an All-Star game, but it was the fourth quarter of the All-Star game where I think it was the hardest basketball I've ever seen. Like at an NBA.
That was pretty lit.
He gets clamped. He looked like a child amongst men.
Okay, no. Okay,
he looked like a child.
Maybe late, but if I remember correctly, there was a move late where he did like a fake spin, then turned around on somebody and hit a shot with like 2 minutes left. That was nasty.
But they beat him up pretty bad in that fourth quarter. I think it was Davis that did it.
Listen, maybe he's the one guy, but like that game was like
that was electric.
Calling much in a regular season game. In a regular season game,
yeah,
they call it.
Maybe they call it.
No, they call.
All right.
Like 8 different.
I get you. I get what you're saying. I had him 10 points lower than you. 10. I
can't believe we're using the All-Star game as a reference.
I know, and that's why I preface it saying it was All-Star game, but it was the fourth quarter of the most highly contested and physical play of an All-Star game I've ever seen. That was probably the best All-Star game in any sport that I've seen of that. 15 Trae Young. I think he's a great scorer, and surprisingly, he's a great passer. Average 9.3 assists per game. But his defense is an issue. But I think what makes up for it is that he's such a prolific scorer. He's such a prolific passer that I give him a lot of credit. And I think out of all these point guards out of this, the young guys, he has the brightest future.
He doesn't win.
Besides,
that's too early to throw on him. Yeah. That's too early to throw on him.
But Donovan and Jim,
I say the same thing. But then again, you said about Karl Anthony Towns doesn't win.
Okay, here's my thing though. What I was saying, I didn't expect the Hawks to make the playoffs. I expected them to get maybe 15 more wins than
they also lost John Collins for like a good.
I don't even care.
Suspension.
Like, give this guy.
Who was the second best player on that team whenever John Collins was out? Who was the second best player on that team when John Collins was out?
Probably Kevin Huerter, DeAndre.
Yeah.
Okay, I get what you mean. But if I want to see the Hawks do well this year, I want to see a big improvement because they have all the pieces.
Everybody does. They're great, and Atlanta's booming right now. So I feel like a lot of people want to see the sports town of Atlanta to do well. But no,
Atlanta's hey, hopefully they don't choke 2 leads. I mean, Atlanta Hawks are red, but the state's going blue. You know what I mean?
We're filming this before we know, so
hey, you never know. Connor, 15.
If you just jinx the election, I'm quitting the show. But
go ahead.
15, I have, and this is the last of this kind of tier. So after this, I think I have like potential franchise cornerstones, like guys that have proven it at least a little bit more. But 15, I have Brad Beal. I just think like this guy is an elite scoring guard, and he was the biggest All-Star snub, even though I just kind of criticized you both for mentioning the All-Star game as being a bad use of evidence. But no, this guy, he's dropping 30 every night if he wants to or not. And it's going to be interesting to see how he comes back with a new look John Wall, just because we're probably not going to see the one pre-Achilles injury. I think that was what was keeping him out over these last 2 years. But no, he's the leader in that Wizards team. Like, yeah, they got an invite to the bubble. They didn't really get a legit welcome in, but he's still a top 15, top 20 player.
Yeah. I think being selected to an All-Star game is definitely something to argue for. I think that's a good thing, but how you play doesn't really matter unless it's that fourth quarter when everybody's playing and everybody's playing at their best possible ability. That's all I gotta say.
Mm-hmm. All right. 14, Jason Tatum. One of the best listen, you know I'm high on the Celtics and I'm high on Jason Tatum.
Not like high for me though.
Jason Tatum, and I feel like he would be higher if he didn't have a Jaylen Brown in his team. That's no like disrespect to Jaylen Brown. He just doesn't get as many touches. This guy, I feel like he's going to be good in isolation. He's lengthy. He plays on D. And not only in isolation, he moves without the ball. He can shoot the three. He does literally everything. He runs like he's one of those wings in the NBA that fits that prototypical piece and is only getting better. He's like 22. I'd be very shocked if the Celtics do not win a championship within the next 4 or 5 years. They need something else. I think Tatum's going to get better, but I have him at 14. I think Jason Tatum, give him a year. Bold prediction. Next year or in 2 years, Jason Tatum is a bona fide top 10, and it's not close.
Call him an MVP. Call him an MVP.
I'm not gonna, because Luka could win that for the next 3 years.
True.
But that's who I have at 14. Jaden.
All right, the moment we all been waiting for from me.
Ooh.
Number 14.
Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving. Here we go. And
we go.
I don't think that's too
That's not bad.
high.
That's
I
a
don't think
nice
too
ranking.
low.
That's a nice ranking.
I think I could have put him at 13 if I was feeling a little different. But one thing I will say is that I've never denied his physical talent. One of the greatest ball handlers in the league at the moment. Maybe people argue he's the greatest ever, right up there with Allen Iverson. And he's able to get to the basket and score. He's able to grab a lot of rebounds as well. He can shoot it. He can do everything. I never denied his talent. I will never, ever deny his talent. What I will deny is how he's able to lead a team. And from the point guard position, arguably that's one of the most important spots to do it, much like a quarterback is in the NFL. I know it's a little bit different, obviously, but he is the one that's controlling the ball going down the court, right? And he's the one making the passes. Obviously, with him and Kevin Durant, you can expect a lot of great things to come from that team, possibly. But if things go sour, I think you know exactly where it's coming from, because it's been proven in the past. He wanted to get out away from the Cavs a long time ago. He was able to do that. He went to the Celtics, and that Celtics team obviously now a lot better with a different point guard now taking the reins in Kemba Walker. Listen, Kyrie Irving, I've been hating on him for a long time. This guy can be a lot higher on the list, but he just needs to prove to me from a leadership standpoint that he's able to lead a team. I really hope he does, from my heart. But I never deny his talent. Never deny his talent. One of the greatest ball handlers in the league. No question about that.
14 for you, Connor.
I've got Cat here, and I think that's a little high, but it's still, I just think you can still build. He's still a cornerstone. And the reason I have him above guys like not Kemba, but Tatum and Beal is like, I think even though Tatum is closer probably to, I think Tatum can reach and maybe overpass Cat like this next season. I'm still going to put Cat a little higher just because I think he is probably a top 3 center at minimum. And I think there's times where he is better than Embiid. And it's just everyone knows how good he is offensively and on the glass too. But he and there's no denying his defensive inefficiencies. So that's like he can't really rim protect. But as long as I think him and D'Lo, and whether it's Anthony Edwards or even Jarrett Culver, I'm not giving up on him yet. So I think that's a good team. That's a good young team, and they'll have plenty of potential in the next couple of years.
Yeah, remember that fight between Cat and Embiid? That was good. Oh, we need more of that in the NBA. Let's fight each
other.
Do we? Okay. We do. 13. Guys put him too low. Devin Booker. I mean, this is a cold stone killer. I think he's the youngest player to put up like 70 points or whatever, and he did that in like year 2 in the league. He's great. Like
he's great, but he only doesn't do it all the time.
Where are we getting sometimes here? All right, let's go.
He needs it in all. Like I said, when his light is on, it's bright. And everybody's really hot.
Let's go. Let's go with the numbers.
When his lights off, I don't really see it as much. Like I said earlier, he's averaging 26.6 points per game, and that's great. But that did not result into winning in the regular season. Obviously, it resulted in the bubble. At that point, it resulted then when his light was on. But it didn't result for everybody. So,
but this guy wins more than the other.
What I'm saying is that winning is one thing, but what I need to see from him is a constant glow. He has the potential. You put him at the top of his range. You did. I put him 18. I think he's very volatile. I put him right there.
He just listen. Other than the young players, he wins a little bit more. And who else on that team? He had Ricky Rubio this year.
I know.
He's got DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
But that's a young core, and he's doing better with his young core than some other teams. So that's why I had him there. All right, Jaden 13.
Russell Westbrook, number 13.
No.
I think he belongs right there. I think that's a pretty safe place to put him, give him his talent.
That's safe?
27 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, 7 assists per game.
He did have a great regular season.
47% from the field. Only thing struggling is 3-point ball, but he's never been known for being able to shoot from the 3. Him and Harden together, not a lot of people expected them to play well together, and look what they did. They led that team to a good playoff run. They hopped over the Thunder, right? So I give Westbrook a ton of credit, and because we could have seen him fall and crash and burn. He did not. His numbers stayed consistent.
How much were his numbers inflated by Mike D'Antoni is my question. But
That
Connor, go ahead.
obviously the offense helps, and when you have D'Antoni there, obviously that helps. But if you're able to win a playoff series and push
Connor.
through,
I will say the reason why I had him at 24.
You put him low because you didn't want your bias to show. But where
Well,
would you
no,
want
here's the
to put
thing.
him?
I know I mentioned
did
Siakam
terrible.
like left everyone with a bad taste in their mouth, and then I had him at like 16. The reason I have Russ at 24 is because I'm scared we're not going to be able to see like pre-bubble Russ, because he had some injuries. Like he had a leg injury, he had COVID. Like I'm worried that he might start to be breaking down soon. So I put him at the bottom. I put him at the bare bottom of his range.
And I could have flip-flopped him with Kyrie. I could have flip-flopped him with whoever's above him. Or I could even flip-flop him with Trae Young. I think I'm in a very close grouping in my
because
list
if he doesn't get injured, he doesn't have COVID, and he doesn't just really kind of like
I'm putting him up there mostly because of the testament to what not a lot of people expected him to be able to play as well as he did with Harden.
Pre-bubble, I agree with the ranking. It's just there were a couple question marks. There's too many question marks for me to put him too high in his range right now.
I'm willing to take that. I'm willing to take that because the future is unknown.
At 13, I have another point guard. I have Kyrie. There's no denying his talent. With if he's able to win a championship, he's a top 10 player, and 13 is kind of holding him back, not because of his talent. So
I could have put Kyrie right in the same spot you're saying.
Listen, 12, Kyrie. Again, greatest ball handler. Connor, you just said it. Jaden, you've already talked about him. Let's keep moving. Jaden, 12.
12, now I have Jason Tatum. I think this is sort of where he belongs on this list, right? He's not top 10 because there's definitely 10 guys I could say that are a little bit better than him. But without a shadow of a doubt, with him comes winning. And that's how I see it. So this Celtics team is very, very strong. And they have a bright, bright, bright future. And and if you want to talk about the three ball, he's able to shoot it very well, 40% from the field. And, his points per games numbers aren't really up there. But there's a lot of other guys in that Celtics team that can score as well. So, and especially in a playoff form, he was scoring at such an efficient rate that you really can't put it past him. I put him at number 12. I'm very happy with that.
I want to add something about Tatum and the Celtics, and I know I said Tatum's probably still going to grow. I just have a slight worry in me that team is very close to their ceiling. And I know they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they able to
push through.
No, because Tatum and Jalen are going to get better.
I think that because Tatum's still 22, it's just I'm worried that they might be closer to their ceiling than we think. And I'm saying that even though I think Robert Williams is going to be a better starting center.
Defensively, I agree with you.
And I think they're going to be moving on from Hayward within the next 2 years. And I think that's going to
listen. I don't care about Hayward. I think they get.
Well, no, I think Hayward hurts the team. I think Hayward hurts the team financially.
Okay, he does. Financially more than in play.
I think Danny Ainge will help. Hold on. The thing I'm going to say, defensively, I think they may reach their ceiling. Offensively, not. Jaden, go.
What I will say is that the Bucks, in my opinion, are the favorite to win the East. The Heat were overachievers, but the Celtics definitely have, by my opinion, the second best chance to win the East. Bucks and 4.
Bucks and 4, yeah.
Bucks and 4. Yeah.
Never forget.
12.
At 12, I have Embiid, and
way too high.
You're way too low on him.
I know, but that. All right.
I haven't.
Connor and I, we're pretty similar today.
He's the best center. He's the best big man center in the league. And health really wasn't an issue last season. I mean, yeah, he was able to stay on the court in the bubble. Like he was their lone superstar left playing against the Celtics, and he kept them in it pretty much. But no, I just think that and Dane, you mentioned that quote that Draymond Green had. Anytime he steps outside and shoots it from anywhere, he's bailing the defense out. That's just because how dominant he is. And I think if Simmons and him aren't on that team together, both of them are probably higher on my list. I'm going to say that because I think each of them are holding the other back just because they're not the best fits. And
if Simmons had more shooters, I feel like he'd be amazing.
Exactly. So, I mean, they're just kind of like not in a mean way saying this, but they're holding each other back just because they don't blend well together. Like you can't have a 6'9" passer go with a dominant big man center who needs the ball in his hands.
And I think if Embiid had a point guard or more shooters, that he's not a terrible passer. If he could kick out to some guys, his assist numbers. And how many times do you have to double Joel Embiid in the post? Like you can't. Like what guy's gonna go one?
I'm not denying his great post.
You can count on one hand the amount of players who can defend Joel Embiid in the league.
True. Yep. And those players will meet him in the playoffs. That's what I'm saying.
That's a fair point.
I say less than like 4, but number 11 for me. This is a possibility we all have the same top 10, but I don't think we're gonna.
I think we have
Jimmy
the same
Butler.
11.
Jimmy Butler is my number 11. just because he had such a phenomenal playoffs. He would have been lower, obviously, if he didn't push it to the finals, but gritty, hard-nosed. He wanted to find leadership. This guy just goes after it. There was some criticism, what he did in Minnesota, what he did in Chicago toward the tail end of his Bulls tenure. This guy is what it means to be a leader of a team. Mm-hmm. He's an assassin from the mid-range, showing that he can do it that way. And literally effort-wise, defensively, everything is there. Jimmy Butler, 11.
We'll see Jimmy Butler next week for me. For number 11, I have Damian Lillard. Much how I had the Trailblazers at number 11. I think he is also the perfect, and I said the Trailblazers are the perfect number 11 team. I think Damian Lillard is the perfect number 11. I can't put him in the top 10 just because he can't get it done in the playoffs. Just in the regular season, Damian Lillard might be the best regular season basketball player I've ever seen. But
no,
I don't think he's the best.
Paul George must have had to do something crazy.
I don't think he's the best.
17 in your rankings in the regular season,
postseason. So Lillard, he's third in scoring. In my ranking, second in assists. Not second in assists. He's top 5 in assists, top 5 in 3-point ball. He's able to do it all. But I can't put him higher than a couple of these guys, any of these guys in the top 10 list without it at all.
I've got Butler. I've got him, and that final
top 10.
Yeah. I've got Dame top 10, and we're gonna see him early next week. But
Gene, you said Butler early next week too. That's it.
None of the points you said were wrong. It's just I think Dame's offensive ability outweighs what Butler can really do defensively and as a team in whole.
Hey, if that Trailblazers team, obviously they had to go past the Lakers. And that's not going to happen. Yeah. But, if you put that team against a lot of other teams, they probably go a lot farther.
Hold on.
I just haven't been able to see it. And I love him. I think he's awesome.
The Heat had more pieces, but what did Jimmy have? He had Bam. And as much as I crushed on Bam, Bam does play defense. If you take a look at the Trailblazers, big guys, that was abysmal. It was abysmal. So you can't blame Dame.
I know you can't blame him, but I love him. I've bought his shoes before. He's on the cover of 2K. He's done everything.
You should wear him next time we play.
I have him at 11, and he could definitely be higher without a doubt.
Right. But Connor and I have the same top 10. Well, same range of players.
I sort of do too. It's just one guy.
You have 9 of 10.
9 out of 10.
The 10 we have left, and this is no particular order because I'm gonna mix it up. Luka, Giannis, KD, LeBron, Kawhi, Anthony Davis, if I already said him, Dame, Jokic, Harden, and Steph Curry. So I think I mentioned everyone in there. So that is no particular order. I just mixed it up.
You forgot Caruso. My bad.
Oh, shoot. Hey.
Number 1, baby. You didn't mention Lou Dort.
Lou Dort as well?
Yeah, Lou Dort. Top 10,
Hey, he had a great end of the season. That last play was so beautiful.
It's the game.
I know we got to wrap up. Final thing.
We're way over. I'm just going to try and edit together. But
NBA 2K.
I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, my bad, man. It's okay.
It's all right.
NBA 2K coming out Thursday. A ton of new stuff coming into the game. I know you have to get a PS5 or an Xbox Series X to play it. To play the extra stuff. Me, because I enjoy, and this is a basketball show, so I'll talk about the basketball side of it.
In Xbox,
there's no longer the park. There's no longer the neighborhood. Now it's the city. It's gonna get 500 people in one server. It's gonna be insane. If you're not playing, I don't know what you're doing. You're not a basketball fan. That's all I gotta say. Right. I'm into the my career stuff. I know some people are into the my team. I know some people are into the my franchise or whatever it's called nowadays. It's awesome. I can't wait.
Connor,
I'm a big fan for 2K.
Connor, do you like how you see I got the
shoulders
jersey on today?
Oh, I thought you were talking
about
shoulder
the
shoulders.
We haven't talked about college basketball in a long time.
We haven't talked about college basketball.
You like the shoulder look?
Yeah, I love the shoulders. Thank you for letting me know that you have shoulders.
Thank you. So the joke is, whenever I'd wear a tank top to go play pickup basketball, and Connor would be like, Dana, shoulders or whatever.
Yeah, it's like Dane just wears tank tops just to prove everyone that he has shoulders. He would be the only guy walking into the courts with a tank top on.
Final service announcement as well. During the NBA draft, we will be covering it live on WICB. Turn it on the radio itself if you want to in your car, or you can do it on WICB.org. draft.org, and we'll be there covering the whole first round of the draft. And hopefully see some big things happen.
We're gonna live. We might go Instagram live. I'm not sure.
I think it's possible. We got a lot of kinks, but we're definitely gonna be on WICBS for sure.
All right. Sounds good. Episode 25
draft too.
Yeah, tune in episode 26. We're gonna go 10 through 1. College basketball is coming up soon. Speaking of which, Q's national champions. I mean, what are we even talking about? Sure. Not sure. I'll break it down for you. Make sure to follow us all on social media. Noah Eagle interview coming out soon. It might even come out before this episode. I'm not even sure. Another interview coming up. We'll post that soon, but stay tuned. Social media. We're popping. Drafts coming next week. Basketball starting to come back into the flow of things.
Yeah.
Right?
And this is the type of podcast you need when you're missing a little bit of basketball. Just come join us three, for an hour or however long we do these for 35 minutes. We're supposed to be, but I think we're over now. But this is where you want to be, right here.
We're at like 45.
Jeez.
Hey, really shout out. We didn't record this morning. Shout out John Bakari for reminding us. That was completely our bad. But we're loving it here.
Blame on Dane.
Yeah. Don't blame it on me. Yeah. I'm the one who does the episodes, but like we literally didn't talk about it. Dedication right there.
Hopefully we'll be back soon. Back on campus.
Keep listening in. Oh yeah. Man, I gotta say, Sunday mornings. 9 a.m. strolling in. We would be so ready to go, so much energy. We'd go to sleep at 7 p.m.
I also feel there's a lot more structure when we're in studio than we're
we had an hour.
Very true. Very good point. Very good point.
We had an hour, and then like whenever we're doing these rankings, like Dane's spending 10 minutes telling me about Paul George being the 17th best player, and I can't explain Jimmy Butler, who's 11. I have to go through that in like 20 seconds.
Hey, sorry. Listen, it's the rules.
Hey, maybe just don't talk about Paul George as a top.
Hey, if you want to become the WICB sports director and apply for it and ask John Bakari to lengthen the show, then we can do that.
No, John's great at his job.
We should be there for
love you, John.
I'm so pro John.
Yeah, pro John. Did you know him before? Did you know him before college? I'm not sure.
I did.
How are we doing this outro?
I didn't know that. Again, make sure you follow us on social media. Episode 25. Tune in episode 26. More interviews. Jaden Becker, Connor Glenn, Dane Richardson. Peace out.